If you watch award shows, I'm sure you've noticed that there's not a whole lot of us winning awards for our work behind the scenes. That's because our numbers behind the scenes are a little sparse. Joining me now to talk about how to get those numbers up, but also what do you deal with when it comes to Hollywood and the whole notion of what is a, quote, black film. It's actor, producer, director Robert Townsend, actor, producer, director Bill Duke, and writer-director Gina Prince-Bythewood. See, all these black folks got to have multiple jobs to get bills paid. All right. Welcome to Washington Watch. It was very interesting when all the stuff going on about Red Tails and George Lucas, and he talked about walking in and all the Hollywood studios saying, we don't really know how to market this film because it has an all-black cast. And he said, I now saw for the first time what black filmmakers have to go through. Mm-hmm. When you heard that story, did you go, well, thank you, George. I'm sure glad you now know what it feels like.
I think it was more that, I mean, obviously we've all been through it, but I think finally someone, shed a light on it. It's kind of been underneath the radar, and because he's George Lucas, people finally paid attention.
Well, I think it's just sad, because at this time in history that it's a story, a history story, that needs to be told, and we should celebrate it. It shouldn't be hard to market, but it just seems like we always get that one little thing that goes, well, we don't know how to sell it. It's a story of heroes. It's a story of courage. It's a story of men that did something that no other men have done before.
Bill, I'm sitting here reading Harry Belafonte's book, My Song, a Memoir,
Correct.
And he is talking about Carmen Jones. And the exact conversation he's writing about Carmen Jones is the exact conversation we've been having about Red Tails and about any other movie that has an all-black cast.
Not much has changed, and I don't expect much to change unless we begin to think differently. And when I say that, as a collective entity, and really examine distribution, and not only films, but the concept of brands. And how do we leverage that, and how do we use it? But collectively, not just as individuals, but we have to come together.
One of the things that also that jumps out at me when you had these conversations with directors and with producers, you have to deal with, well, do I make something I really want to make that's in my heart, or do I need to make something that's commercial so I can go back to make what's in my heart? Robert, how you had to deal with that?
Well, the film I just finished called In the Hive, it's an indie film, and I just love telling stories that speak to me, you know what I mean? And so you walk that line of like, yeah, you want to do commercial stuff, but then it's got to really speak to you. I think as a filmmaker, you live with a movie for 2 years, so you better be happy and you better love it. And so I've always said no to things that I knew I couldn't be in that editing room, I couldn't be scoring and doing the whole thing if you don't love every frame.
Gene's over there laughing, going, I think I know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of template is, I think about, am I going to be embarrassed to go to the premiere? And if the answer is yes, there's no way I'm making that film.
Also, first of all, as a woman, you deal with something that they don't have to deal with. And so take our viewers through that experience of, again, people having expectations by saying, well, we don't really know she might be able to handle this type of work.
Honestly, that happened early on, like with Love and Basketball, my first film. But I just had to put that aside. I mean, because it'll come at you from every angle, and if you buy into it or give into it, it's just going to crush you. So early on, I just decided not to even hear that at all. And it's really just about what film do I want to make, what kind of story do I want to tell, and just focus on that.
I was talking to some folks at a conference a couple of years ago, and we were talking about Just Right. And it was interesting, they said, here was this movie, and because Hollywood had a predetermined number, and it didn't hit it, all of a sudden, you swear all romantic comedies involving black people were just sort of wiped off the table. And so it's sort of like Jackie Robinson to me, Jackie Robinson coming to the major leagues, man, if that one brother don't do well, it's going to shut everything else down.
It's really sad that because Hollywood has us in this box of black film as a genre, when there's one failure, it affects every single black film that comes out after that. So, I think we got to kind of get away from that as a genre and really just focus on putting us in every other genre, like action, romantic comedy.
So, Robert, what the hell is a black film? Because you hear that and it's tossed around. What does that even mean?
Well, I think, anytime, African Americans are in the lead role, I think, and, they're the hero, I think that's what people equate as a black movie because, if we're in supporting roles, like, Captain, there's a body over here, that's okay, you know what I mean? But if you're in the lead role and you're the captain, I think that's when people go like.
But here's what I don't understand, Bill. You can have 80% of white kids buy hip hop. If you said who is the top singer in the country, they might say Beyonce. Who's the biggest talk show host in the country? They'll say Oprah Winfrey. Is a black president. So I think it's pretty clear white folks have accepted black folks in these areas. Yet for some reason Hollywood says, nah, we're going to still keep it in this racial box.
Well, the way they put it is that it's not a racial box. It is that our films do not sell foreign. We're not perceived globally as an entity where people are going to buy our movies. And so we're limited to domestic sales, which means low budgets or no budgets, because we're not financially viable.
But are they actually taking the movies internationally? I'll give you an example. So I was sitting here one day and I was thinking about this question. I said, let me take two movies where men are wearing dresses. And so I looked at Big Mama's House. I looked at Medea. I looked at Big Mama's House did nearly 50% of its total gross worldwide, international. And I said, okay, black dude, mostly black cast, a lot of money made internationally. I looked at Medea, $50,000 made internationally. And I was sitting here going, mostly black cast, dude in the dress, mostly black cast with Martin Lawrence, Big Mama's House, dude in the dress, but both were treated differently. So it's part of the problem, frankly, how Hollywood chooses to market a certain film. Because when I look at those two, I pretty much see largely black people in all of the roles in the films.
It's I'm about to do a movie as a woman in a dress.
It's Robert's fault. I tried to get him a dress. I tried to get him to wear a dress. He wouldn't do it, so he ruined the whole thing, man. We had investors and everything else. And he had a pom-pom, too.
I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, Gina, what would you say?
I think part of it's marketing. I mean, The Help was not marketed as a black film.
That's right.
And look how much damn money it made.
Robert, Bill, Gina, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you,
guys
sir.
for having
All
us.
right.